Welcome to episode number 1 of the No BS Small Business Marketing Podcast. I am your host, Jarrod Cash. Now, since this is the inaugural episode, I am going to be looking to lay a bit of a foundation for what the rest of this podcast is going to be about. But since it's episode number 1, I am going to have to talk about one thing that we're likely to never talk about again, and that is myself. Now, this is not going to be a show about me. This is going to be a show about advertising tactics and methods that you as an entrepreneur or business owner can take and use in your business right away. There's nothing for sale on this show. I have nothing to sell you. I don't need to promote myself. I have no ego trip here. This is about solid information. But here, since it's episode 1, we're going to talk about me just this one time so you know who I am and why you should listen to me about this kind of stuff. So I am a direct response advertising copywriter and consultant. I've been one for about 14 years now. Now, if you're unfamiliar with what direct response advertising is, don't worry, we're going to be getting into that heavily. Now, I've trained under some of the best marketing guys in the business in this field, like Dan Kennedy, Jay Abraham, John Carlton, the late great Gary Halpert, and many, many others. Over the course of these years, I've worked exclusively with small business owners and entrepreneurs. Anybody from mom and pop small business owners like restaurants, small repair shops, even multi-level marketing business owners, all the way to international speakers, best-selling authors. I am the former business advisor to Southern Colorado for Dan Kennedy and the Glazer Kennedy Insider Circle. So what that means is I taught small business owners and entrepreneurs across Southern Colorado by weekly seminars, monthly mastermind meetings, large groups. I taught them how to advertise their businesses, how to get more customers, how to increase referrals. We did consultations based off that. At the time, we were charging $15,000, my partner and I, and getting it 4 consultations that were 2-day intensive diagnostic and prescriptive sessions. In this podcast, you're going to be getting 99% of that exact same information over the courses of the show. And I'm going to try and dole it out in small, mini episode size bits that you as a business owner or an entrepreneur can listen to easily on your way to work, while you're working out, repeatedly, without any hour-long commitment. Now, this first episode might go a little long because some of the foundation that we have to lay, but that's it. Since I moved out here to Las Vegas, I've been on local business radio shows. I've appeared at seminars, spoken at international mastermind groups. I was named number 5 in Evan Carmichael's Top 100 Advertising Experts list. I'm the author of the Direct Mail Rules and the Mini Marketing Book series. I've been the owner of Direct Results Marketing since 2004. Now that we're out here in Vegas, we are in a niche industry. We specialize in one small field, which is why I'm not looking for clients. That's why I don't have to sell anything on this show. And that is why you can listen to this and know that you're getting solid information without getting a bunch of sales pitch or some hidden methods trying to get money from you. I'm never going to ask you for your cash. There's some pictures on your screen if you're watching on YouTube of me with a lot of some of my clients, some of the famous speakers I've done work for, people I've appeared with, friends like Joel Bauer, Larry Loic, several others. More importantly, I'm a single parent. I have been for well over a decade now, raising a daughter by myself. That's her there on screen. She's my pride and joy, and much more important than anything else we're going to talk about as far as my accomplishments. Let's talk about why you should listen to this show. Now, frankly, the reason I'm doing it is there's too much bullshit getting shoved at small business owners and entrepreneurs in the field of advertising and marketing. And it's not a new story to me. It's the same thing I've seen over and over for all these years. It is, in fact, why I got into this industry to begin with. Let me tell you a little story. If we flash back to 2002, I had just left managing a restaurant to go in and work for my father. 9/11 had kind of changed the economy quite a bit. If you were around during that time, you know, as a small business owner, it was a traumatic experience for the country, obviously. So I came in to manage his front office as a service manager in his auto repair shop. And within the first, 3 months or so, I had an encounter with the Yellow Pages sales representative. Now, back in those days, the phone book was still a major source of advertising. It was a big deal. It was pretty much considered a requirement for a business owner to advertise in. As funny as that might seem now. So the way it worked is representatives would come around and they'd tell you what you need. Then they would try to upsell you on things like color and size, etc. At the time, we were running an eighth of a page ad, and we decided that we needed to increase customers with the downturn in the post 9/11 economy, and we're going to increase that to a quarter page ad in the phone book, which at that time was a $800 a month investment, which is expensive now, frankly. 14 years later, at that time, 14 plus years later, at that time, it was even more so. It's $9,600 a year. So it was a pretty big investment. They had a whole ad, section that designed it, did everything. We just let them take over, basically bought the color, everything that they said that we needed. They did. They came back with a pretty decent looking ad that we thought had a mom family inside a minivan, kind of in front of a graphic with an auto repair shop in the back, happy guy waving, said the name of the shop up front in big letters and a phone number and all that pertinent information. We thought, great. We signed the contract for the year, $9,600 investment, and 4 or 5 months later, the new phone book comes out, and we excitedly grab it from the front of the business, where they still drop those things these years on the side. Anyways, don't know why they're still doing phone books in 2018, but I got one not too long ago. Anyways, back to the story. We open it up, and yep, there's our quarter page ad, and literally right beside it is an ad that's exactly the same. We've got our ad, one quarter page, and the other quarter page on the top half is an ad for another repair shop that's got the exact same graphic. It's got the same mom in her minivan with her kids in front of the same shop with the same happy mechanic waving in the back, and the only thing that's different on the damn ad is the name of the shop and the shop's information. So we're very upset when we see this. It's unbelievable. So call the guy up, our representative, and his excuse is probably legitimate. I'm sure it was, that they don't have any control over placement in the phone book. It comes out the way the printers line it up, and it comes out, and it was just bad luck. Well, it was bad luck that we're signed into a year for at $800 a month. So that was pretty disheartening, and it got us paying very close attention to the ad. It got me pissed off. I thought, man, this is BS right here. We did everything these people said to do. We assume they're experts. They're the ad people, right? And now we're spending a ton of money. We better see how many customers we're getting. So my job as a service manager was managing the front desk. This is a small business. There was only us, my father, me, handful of employees. So I had personal interaction with 95% of the customers coming into the shop. So I'd ask them, did you see our Yellow Page ad? Did you see our Yellow Page ad? And I tracked who did, who didn't. Over the course of the year, we had a grand total of, get this, 11 customers that saw the Yellow Page ad and came in on an ad that we paid $9,600 a month for, or a year for, excuse me. That's approximately $870 each customer that we got. That was our cost of acquisition. I thought that was outrageous. I mean, to me, that was simple math, and the math didn't add up. But we did everything right that we thought. We sat down and we talked about it. They're the ad experts, right? So we began to feel like a victim. What I later learned is an advertising victim. And that's what happens all over this country still in 2018 right now. Now, what we did was start seeking out better ways to advertise. Got me into this field. It got me seeking answers. It got me finding direct response, how to do it, and led me to the best minds in the business to learn from. So we're going to lay the foundation on this show right here based on only what's been proven to work. Direct response allows you to test and then to prove something before you spend a lot of money on it. There's going to be no classroom theory, no marketing theory taught in some school that's never been tested in the entrepreneurial world. You're not going to find that on here. You listen to this show and you're going to get radical shifts in your thinking and your approach to your marketing and your advertising. Now, these early episodes are going to focus on this foundation and the rules for building a solid advertising and marketing structure for your business. And in today's episode, we're going to specifically talk about 3 of the biggest yet most common mistakes that over the 14 years of working with small business owners and entrepreneurs that I've seen made on a consistent basis. All right. Now I'm out here in Las Vegas. It's very dry. It's summertime, so I'm going to have to pause from time to time and have a few drinks of water. Please forgive the pauses. But as we were just talking about a moment ago, an advertising victim, and what is that specifically? That's spending money on a bunch of advertising that you've been sold by someone you trusted as an expert because they're there in your business selling you advertising, or they've called you on the phone, or they sent you an email, or however you come in contact with them. And then you spend a ton of money and then nothing happens. Just like us on that Yellow Pages ad all those years ago, we might as well just flush the money down the toilet. Because if I remember correctly, at least a third of those 11 people came in for oil changes at the time, which were $19.99, and bought nothing else. It was a fiasco. We might as well set that money on fire. It did nothing for us. And everybody that's had a business has had that happen. You get advertising that doesn't deliver. And that's because most of the advertising that you see out there, it simply doesn't work. That's an irrefutable fact these days, and sometimes, though, it's a hard pill to swallow. So let's take a look at why it doesn't work. There's a very specific reason, and that's because the vast majority of small business advertising copies exactly what these bigger, larger corporations are doing. Companies, I mean, like, say, Nike, or companies like McDonald's, or car companies like Ford and Chevy. Now you might say, so what, Jarrod? Those companies are massively successful. McDonald's is billions of dollars worth billions of dollars, I'm sure. So is Coca-Cola. So are all these car companies. They're successful, right? Well, they are in their goals. But you as a small business owner, as an entrepreneur, you don't have the same goals with your advertising that McDonald's does, that Chevy does, that Coca-Cola does. Now, Dan Kennedy, my best mentor, this is his list of the big corporations' advertising goals taken from his direct marketing book. And this is right on. Number one is they want to please or appease their board of directors, okay? And most of the board of directors don't know anything about marketing and advertising their business. They want to do the same thing for their stockholders. They want to look good. They want to look appropriate to Wall Street and the media. They want to build something called brand identity. They want to win awards for advertising. And then along the way, they'd like to sell some product, but that's not the focus of the advertising. Now, you as a small business owner and an entrepreneur, your advertising has a different goal. You need to sell something, right? You need to sell it now, yesterday, and tomorrow. And if you think about that, and you think about the goals of your advertising, it's a game-changing principle. Now, you have to be very, very careful what style of advertising that you're copying. You need to make certain that their goals are the same as your goals. And I'll tell you right now, those big ads you see on TV, their goals are never going to be the same as yours. If you get to that point, if you build a brand along the way, that's great. And in later episodes, we're going to talk small, very small amounts about the legitimate side of building a brand. But most of that stuff is BS. It might work for them, these big companies that have $1 million ad budgets, but you don't have $1 million ad budget. You're probably trying to make payroll. You'd like to have some money left over for you, right? Isn't that the point that you're doing this? So this leads us to marketing mistake number 1 of the 3. And that's using traditional branding style advertising, just like all these big corporations do. But now that you know and you see that their goals are different than ours as small business owners are, we have to look at what we do instead, which you've probably figured it out, is direct response advertising. Now, this is not a new concept. This is not a new method of advertising, not at all. It's time-tested. It's a proven method of advertising and marketing. It can be done in any type of media. We can do it in television. We can do it in a newspaper if you want to go old school. You can do it on the internet. You can do it via text message. You can do it on the radio, satellite radio. You can go old school snail mail. You can do it on social media. Direct response marketing applies all over. So let's break it down. Let's see exactly what this is, and let's do it by comparing branding versus direct response. So if we look at image branding or traditional or institutional advertising, these are all names for the same thing. They basically seek to create a brand in the consumer's awareness in order to make them feel a certain way about their product, or to make them think about their product under certain circumstances, give them top of mind consciousness, hoping that that leads to future sales and market share. Now, direct response advertising has a completely different goal. It seeks to create a sale right now off that ad, or generate a lead right now off that ad. And both of these items are completely traceable back to that ad. Image branding produces no traceable results, and we'll get into that here in a moment. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see two examples coming up here of what an institutional branding ad looks like and what a direct response ad looks like. If you're listening on iTunes, I'll do my best to describe it. You can go to youtube.com/Jarrod Cash, Jarrod Cash, and you can see the video. So the following print ad is for a face cream, okay? And this is going to be an example of a traditional branding ad. So you've got a full color picture here of a very beautiful lady taking up about half the screen. You've got a small bottle of some sort of cream. You have the words 24 and some smaller print that says hours of refreshing hydration with a splash of water circling around the lady's face. And that's it. That's what we got. That's a typical ad. You've all seen it. You've all seen ads just like it. I can't quite read. It looks like the name. You can tell the name of the brand if you look on the bottle. The bottle is very small. This ad here produces unknown results. Okay, there's no way to trace if there's any actual direct sales from that ad. So there's no way to accurately measure a return on investment for putting that advertisement out. So let's take a look now at what a direct response ad for a face cream as well looks like. Now, I realize these are old school print ads, but I think these are very good for the purpose of this discussion. Now, this is selling the exact same product, different brand, same type of product. Now, if you're listening on iTunes, this looks like an old school newspaper ad. It has a big headline on top, almost like a newspaper article. It's got a much smaller picture, maybe I'd say about a sixth of the page, eighth of a page maybe, of a good-looking woman, and it is about 80% print. There's a large headline. There's a sub-headline above it. The headline reads, "Amazing new formula from Beverly Hills lets you take up to 10 years off your looks without the scars and expense of plastic surgery." And then it goes on to sell the face cream in the ad. And in the bottom right-hand corner of the advertisement, there is a spot to order the order the face cream. At the point when this came out, you would cut the ad out and send it in, or you could call an 800 number. Now, this ad produced known results because every single sale that was produced could be traced by several different methods back to these exact advertisements. So the results that this company had were known to come from this ad, and it took it from $20,000 a month in sales to $800,000 a month in sales. Think about that increase right there. From that newspaper ad right there, or print ad, to those type of numbers, 20 grand a month to 800,000 a month directly in those sales. It looks dramatically different, and it produced dramatically different results. So let's talk about what the key elements of direct response marketing are. So number one, it's going to have a headline or a variation of one to use either on the radio, on the television, wherever you're doing it, that's designed specifically for its target market. It's going to make an offer of something. It's either going to offer to generate a sale or to create a lead. It's going to make a promise or a guarantee. It's going to give you specific instructions on what to do next, and exactly what the product is doing, why you should buy it, or what problem that it solves. And that ad and that instructions and that offer is going to have a deadline whereupon it's no longer good. Its results can be tracked, and this allows a return on the investment to be calculated. Now, direct response advertising, excuse me while I grab a drink here. It allows you to do something very different as a small business owner. It allows you to advertise by design and not by default. When my father's company had that Yellow Page ad, it was done by default. There was nothing we could do about it. Anybody that saw that ad, they had absolutely no reason to go to our shop versus the shop that had the exact same ad right next to it. Its results were completely out of our control. But direct response advertising and marketing gives you as a business owner control because its results are measurable and they're based on some simple principles, including if you spend some money on advertising, you need to get some money back. So if you spend $1, you need to get $1 back, or you need to get a customer in, or you need to get $2 or $3 back. And if you don't, if you're putting advertisements out there that are losing money and getting no results, then you stop using them right away. That's part of the value of this kind of advertising. So the cold hard truth is, when you're told, like we were several times, I had to learn the hard way, just like many of you have, when you run an ad and then you get no results and you go to the company that you placed the ad with and they tell you some sort of crap, like you have to keep running the ad in the magazine or you have to keep running the ad on TV. People have to see it so many times before they begin to remember it. It's some sort of similar excuse as to why the ad isn't working. And it's an excuse because you're never going to build a brand that way. You're never going to do what they're trying to accomplish because they're treating you just like a major corporation. We're going to get into in a little while why you can't do that. But here's a quick bit of information. The average person in today's society sees 5,000 advertisements per day. $5,000. You want to build a brand in that? You think you're going to stand out in that? You know what kind of money it takes to stand out in that world? More than most of us have. More than any small business owner or entrepreneur has to work with. So when you hear that kind of BS, you need to recognize it for what it is. It's just bullshit. And that's one thing we're not going to have on this show. When you do direct response marketing, though, you can take control of your small business. You can generate income when you need it because when you get advertisements that work, they become a measurable investment. You heard that right. Your advertising shifts from being an expense into being an investment. See, when you're branding, there's no investment there. It's a gamble for the small business owner. As I just mentioned, the average person sees over 5,000 ads per day. It's going to take a budget of millions to create a brand. I'm not saying it's not possible. It obviously is. There's powerful brands all around us right now, and they're spending millions of dollars to do that. It works out good for ad agencies. You can say, well, why is everybody selling it? Well, it's what they know. And there's no accountability to it. There's no way to say, hey, they're not saying you're going to get ads right off of it. And if they are, that's BS too. There's just zero accountability. But when you start doing that as a small business owner, just like we did at my dad's shop, spending nearly $10,000 back in 2002 on an ad that brought us 11 customers that spent probably less than $2,000 overall. I can't remember the exact numbers at this point. It's a disaster. That's why you get frustrated when your ads don't work. That's why some people have gone so far in their businesses to label advertising as a scam. I've run into it time and time again. People that are bitter. They don't want to hear. I don't want to talk about advertising. I don't want to hear what you're selling, Jarrod. Back in the early days, dealing with people that they were so upset because they've been an advertising victim, and I understand it. I was there too. It's what got me doing this. The thing is, looking at that angry face, that was my dad. That was me at those times, spending $10,000. And that wasn't the only thing we spent a bunch of money on that didn't work. That's just a prime example. And it happens over and over and over again. It doesn't have to be that way. There is a different way to advertise your business. Summary of big mistake number one, therefore, is using that big corporation style, institutional branding style advertising and marketing. And the good news is we're not just talking about mistakes today. We're giving exact solutions to these mistakes, something we're going to talk about over and over again on the show. You're going to immediately switch to using direct response in all of your advertising and marketing. Now you might say, Jarrod, I don't have time to learn direct response marketing. And that's right, you don't. There's no college you can go to learn direct response. You can't get a master's degree in direct response advertising. The way that you learn it is to go out and seek people in the field who put on training seminars, who do internships, who put on all kinds of different boot camps and programs and study courses. And you do like I did, which over the course of these years, I spent over $100,000 on learning how to do this. I invest in my education continually in this field. And it's because I realized that A, it worked, and B, as a business owner, my dad couldn't do it. So back to when I was working for him, he sent me to a seminar because we were looking for a better way to spend our money so we wouldn't keep losing. And he sent me to a seminar out in Vegas. It was on direct response marketing. It was a 3-day boot camp for auto repair shop owners on how to apply direct response marketing into their business. And it was a huge eye opener for me. And it got me really seeking out ways that we could do that, because this is my family's business and I wanted to make it work. And so I started spending less and less time being a service manager and more time into this marketing stuff. And I did everything I could do. I found the books to read at first, which led to study courses, which led to me spending more and more time doing these things and testing these methods right in my father's business and seeing them work to just incredible benefit. I mean, we'd sit there and we'd spend $250 sending out direct mail to our in-house list, and then we could see $5,000 and $6,000 worth of business come back in a week directly from the ads. That's game changing. That's more than we saw spending 10 grand on a year's worth of yellow page advertising. So I realized the value in that. And I realized that my father couldn't continually learn how to do this and still run his business. And in fact, nobody could. And I heard Dan Kennedy say, there's no door-to-door salesman for direct response marketing. And it turned a light bulb in my head that there was a need here and that I could fill it and I could become that guy. And that's what led to me leaving his company and getting into this field and being here all these years later talking to you right now. So back to the summary. We're going to immediately switch you to direct response marketing, which you're going to learn about all on this podcast. And that's mistake number one. So let's get into mistake number two in this foundation here that we're building. And that is committing random acts of advertising. Now, most everybody does this. They don't have a set plan for advertising their business. And typically, they have zero advertising systems in place. And so they're usually only running ads for two reasons. Either some crisis has occurred, and in a business that means things have gotten really slow, really quick, and suddenly you go, man, maybe we should do some advertising or some marketing of some sort. Or you've been contacted by some sort of sales representative from some form of media who's either come into your business, called you, come to you at some networking event to sell you some advertising space in some form or the other. So when these businesses have no systems or plans in place for their advertising, they're at the mercy of who? The media sales rep. Just like in my story earlier about the phone book. That's who we were at the mercy of, was the people doing the ad. And it's their job to sell ad space and to upsell as much as possible. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's their business, and they want to make the maximum amount of money just like you do in your business. But it's something to be aware of. Now, their main focus is not to get you customers. So you're either at the mercy of the media sales rep, or the business owner is forced into acting from behind because business has already slowed down. So you're trying to rush out some form of advertisement when times have already gotten rough. But success in anything that you're going to do, of course, comes from planning and from systems, and then repeating the things that work. So an advertising plan allows you to map out what you're going to do, when and how you're going to do it for the entire year or quarter or month or however long that you're setting it out for. And then systems that you have in place allow you to use tested and proven methods and processes that are going to generate those what? Those known results that we know that direct results marketing or direct response marketing brings. So an example of a basic advertising plan. So if you're looking on screen here on YouTube, you can see that in front of you here, like 2 months laid out. And I'll read this here if you're listening on iTunes. So an example of a real basic advertising plan would be in January, you're going to do a 3-step postcard to a targeted zip code on certain days. You're going to do an email and text appointment reminders every Monday. There's a Facebook ad to a target market from the 1st of the month to the 10th of the month. You're going to do a radio ad on a 30-second spot 4 times a week from the 14th to the 21st. And then you're going to send out December referral thank you cards on the 3rd. And then in February, you're going to do something similar. You have a blog post on the 1st, email and text again, a referral contest. You're going to run a Google pay-per-click ad. Then you're going to send out the January referral thank you cards. Okay, that's a basic plan. But the important thing is it's laid out a long time in advance. So systems are in place and you're building something. Now, I've used the word system a few times. In this context, a system is a collection of advertisements, sales scripts, and marketing tools that are going to be used in a specific order at a specific time, directed at specific targets. As an example, a basic referral system would consist of a referral sales script that's used by every salesperson in your business after a sale's made. It would have trackable referral cards for the customer to hand out to their friends. And you'd have a referral rewards info sheet that goes to those same customers explaining the rewards that you're offering for these referrals. There's going to be a letter and an email and probably a text you send out to your database requesting referrals and explaining the rewards again. Then you're going to have a thank you card, yes, an actual card in the mail, we'll get to that later, and an email to send to someone who refers to your business. There's going to be a thank you section in your newsletter where you're thanking people for the referrals that they send, same on your website. And there's going to be a set procedure and time frame details on what should be done and when by your sales staff. Now, I keep saying several times in their mail, and you might be saying, Jarrod, wait, are you seriously talking about mail on a podcast in 2018? You're talking about letters, like who's using the mail? And yes, I am. There's an opportunity right now in the mailbox if you're doing things right. You know, if you're listening on iTunes, there's a cartoon on screen 15 years ago of a guy standing in front of a computer and he's all excited because he got email. Then it shows him today sitting in front of a computer with 220 unread emails and he's all excited because he got a letter. That's exactly the way it is. Now, don't take that information and just run off and send some crap in the mail. That's not going to work. I'm not talking about junk mail. Stick with the podcast. We'll get into it. Only is going to work if it's done right. So a summary of big mistake number 2 is committing random acts of advertising and not having an advertising plan in place that's using proven systems to generate leads to get customers back. And the solution is to create and follow a plan and to put those proven systems to work. So let's get into big marketing mistake number 3, as we're going to be wrapping things up here in episode number 1. And big marketing mistake number 3 in this foundation that we're laying is spending too much of your focus advertising on new customers only. Most everybody that we've done or I've done consulting work with over the years focuses between 90 and 100% of all their marketing and advertising efforts on getting new customers into the door. And most of them have nothing in place to get their current customers to come back. Because you see, these new customers that everybody's out there trying to get, they cost the most amount of money to get to come in and spend they cost you the most amount of money to get to come into your business, and they spend the least amount of money when they're with you. So if you simply shift who you're marketing to, You can get a big boom in sales by getting the 3 easiest customers to get to come in. So number one of those easy customers to get in the door is your current customers. Now this might sound like simple and basic stuff, and yep, you're right, it is. But nobody does it. And if you're not doing it, don't feel bad. Nobody is. So your current customers and clients are the easiest group of prospects to get to come back in and spend more money. All right. They know you. They like you already. They trust you. And as I'm saying, they're typically the most neglected customers on earth because they're sadly taken for granted by nearly every business owner. Almost every hugely successful small business you see is marketing directly to their customer base. Now, the easiest customer to get, number 2, is the referred customer. That's the friends and the family of your current customer base. They come into you with a certain level of trust. They're much less resistant to your sales process, and they're much more likely to spend money than a new customer. And the easiest to get customer number 3 is your lost customers. All right, and that's exactly what it sounds like. They are the customers that have done business with you in the past, but for whatever reason, they have not been back in to do business with you in whatever time frame for your industry is customary. So for instance, if you're a dentist and you should be seeing somebody every 6 months for a cleaning and you haven't seen them in a year, then they're lost. All right, if you own an auto repair shop, you should be getting an oil change every 3 months. If somebody's not there in 4.5, they're lost, etc. So a mistake, or a summary of big mistake number 3, is you're focusing all of your advertising, your marketing on new customers. And the solution is to market to all 4 customer groups. You do your current customers, then you focus on referred customers, and you get a plan in for your lost customers because you're always going to have some, and they're always going to be new. And then you also, of course, focus on getting new customers in. We don't neglect any of the 4 customer groups. What we simply do is shift the amount of money that we're spending on the most expensive ones to get in to the easier ones to get in. What does that create? That creates a cash flow increase for you as a business owner. So when these 3 mistakes are eliminated, you switch to direct response marketing. 2, you implement an advertising plan and systems in place. And then 3, you spread your advertising out over all 4 types of customers. Then you're going to be able to transform your business and skyrocket up your sales and your profits. I've seen it time and time again. There are literally thousands of successful businesses who are under the radar and using these types of methods to successfully boom in any type of economy that's currently going on, in the future or the past, good or bad. Stick with this podcast. We're going to build on this foundation, and we're going to give you real, solid information that you're going to be able to use and apply right into your day-to-day operations. Now that's it for today's episode, number 1 of the No BS Small Business Marketing Podcast. We looked to lay forward a bit of a foundation for episodes moving forward. I'd like to encourage you to subscribe if you haven't. You can you can download the podcast at jarrodcash.com. You can find iTunes links there as well. If you want to watch the videos and subscribe on YouTube, just go to youtube.com/JarrodCash. That's JARROD cash.com.